Good day to all. I am A.W. Chong, here today to talk about air and water pollution on behalf of the Malaysian Green Technology Society. As you can see on the screen, the topic of today, air squared pollution. Now, what is this air squared pollution about? As for people who are not from Malaysia, the spelling for water in Malay, A-I-R, I-A, happens to be the same as air in English. So I'm taking the liberty here to put it as air plus air, air times air pollution, air and water pollution. So that explains the cover of our this first slide here. And for those who are not from Malaysia, maybe you learn a new Malay word today, air, as in air, A-I-R, air. So today, we're going to get some facts about air and water pollution, facts that hopefully will help all of us to be able to do something to help our environment, protect our environment. What is most important at the end of the day is for us to make sure we play our part as responsible citizens to make our environment cleaner and keep it as beautiful as nature has granted to us. Well, let me move to the next slide, which is talking about questions that we can ask ourselves. And hopefully by the end of this video, you will be able to answer at least these few questions about air pollution and water pollution. Hopefully you will be able to understand what are the activities we do on a daily basis that are burning fossil fuel and contributing to air pollution. And also, number two, the effects of air pollution to our environment. And number three, learn at least 3 new ways we can adopt to help reduce air pollution. About water pollution, number one will be to ensure to find out what are the 2 harmful substances that cause water pollution. At least those who cannot name of any might find out from here today. Number 2, what is the number of people who fall sick from unsafe water every year? Yeah, approximately. That is something also that is shocking. Number 3, list 3 new ways you have learned from this video to reduce water pollution. With that, we move on to our next slide. As we can see, nature has given us a beautiful environment where most of us, I believe, tend to take for granted because, you know, things that come free, we tend to see it day in, day out, and it's a human nature to, after some time, after years and years, right, we tend to take things for granted. Here is a picture of how the Japanese treat their environment. Yeah, and I'm putting this at the front of the video from the starting of the video in the hope that at least we get a picture of the kind of goal we can go towards in keeping our environment clean and taking care of our air and water pollution. We can come to this kind of environment, you know, whether like the Japanese, they actually are able to breed fish in the drains in front of their homes. Can you imagine that happening in your country and ours, like in Malaysia, our country? This is something amazing that we have to learn from the Japanese. You know, in our effort to look east, if we cannot learn anything else, if we can learn this, is good enough. As we can see, this picture in the triangle. The triangle is the symbol for change. Yeah, we want to change from this kind of environment pollution, meaning the smoke from chimneys of factories. We want to change it to the beautiful environment that we used to have before factories came about. Yeah. In Now, in my effort to learn about air pollution and water pollution, one of the first places I went to happened to be a site called NRDC, Natural Resources Defense Council. It's a US body, which was started in the 1970s. And there is an article there by Miss Gillian McKenzie, which is I found very informative to help us to understand everything one needs to know about air pollution, how smog and all the other pollutants come about, and how it affects our environment and our health. I think it's very important for all of us responsible citizens and even the irresponsible ones to find out, because no matter what, we are affecting the people around us plus ourselves in terms of health. So let us understand what is air pollution. This is something which is happens in Malaysia. Something which Malaysians have a front seat view because of the smoke that is blown our way from the Indonesian forest fires. Every year, practically, we have been visited by this haze. As you can see, our iconic Petronas Twin Tower there. The haze surrounding the Petronas Twin Tower is a symbol which Malaysians recognize, and we have been lamenting about for years and years. And this is what air pollution is about. What is air pollution? Yeah, release of pollutants that are detrimental to human health. And accordingly, from the site NRDC, one learns that the US Environmental Protection Agency, their EPA, have regulations as in our country as well. And this NRDC here has been around from 1970 to help protect their environment. We can take a leaf or two from the US EPA and the NRDC in learning how to advance our fight against environmental pollution. Let's move to what causes air pollution. Yeah. Now, according to John Walk, the director of the Clean Air Project at NRDC, this pollution comes from energy use and production, meaning to say all the business activities of human beings that require energy use and production is contributing to pollution. Yeah, the burning of fossil fuels, which releases gases and chemicals into the air, and this exacerbates climate change. What causes air pollution here are the carbon dioxide and methane, which also helps to raise the Earth's temperature. Now that worsens the heat increase in the form that smokes tend to trap the this heat and causes for this climate change issue, not to mention there's more ultraviolet radiation as well. Yeah, as we can see in the picture here, on the left we have what nature has given us, and on the right, now when climate change happens, you know, it increases things like air pollutants, mold, pollen, and our environment is slowly changing from good to bad. So it is a signal for us to be more considerate towards our environment and to understand the effects of air pollution here. Climate change will make it harder to meet pollution standards in the future, according to this scientist, senior scientist from NRDC, the deputy director of the NRDC, Kim Knowlton. Yeah? Here, we talk about the effects of air pollution in a sense. We shall go more in depth into the details of smog, soot, and the other pollutants. Shall we just take a few minutes to visit the effects of air pollution? The most prevalent types, two of them are smog and soot. Smog, also known as the ground level ozone, which are emissions combusting fossil fuel that reacts with sunlight. Soot, soot soil or tiny particles, dust, gas, or solid in the air. Now, both of these come from cars, engines, factories, power plants, incinerators. These are the places where fossil fuels are combusted, and normally these fossil fuels are made up of coal, gas, or natural gas. Yeah. And for smog, they tend to irritate the eyes and throat and cause damage to lungs. In children, senior citizens, people with breathing problems, and those working or exercising outdoors need to be aware of these dangers. Hazardous air pollutants, now these are either deadly or severe even in small quantities. Yeah, there are almost 200 of them that are regulated by law. This is from the NRDC side. Yeah, most common are mercury, lead, dioxins, and benzene. Emissions in gas or coal combustion, incinerating or gasoline. This will actually create all this kind of hazardous air pollutants. Benzene is classified as carcinogenic by EPA, and it causes eye, skin, and lung irritation, short-term blood disorder. Lung irritation, eye and skin irritation for the short term, while blood disorder for the long term. Yeah. Dioxins are also, which are also found in food, affects the liver in the short term. In the long term, it causes harm to the immune system, the nervous system, the endocrine and reproductive functions. Yeah. So while lead damages brains of children and their kidneys, yeah, and it affects the IQ and ability to learn as well. Mercury, as we all know, harms the central nervous system. There's another one called PAH, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. This is another hazardous air pollutant, which are from traffic exhaust and wildfire smoke. Yeah, these harm the eyes and lungs and cause blood and liver issues and cancer. So pregnant mothers also risk having babies with attention deficit disorders, ADHD, and retarded brain functions. So these are the harmful effects of our air from the hazardous air pollutants that are created by human activities, as we have said just now. The factories belching out the smokes. Then we have greenhouse gases. What are these? These are excessive carbon dioxide and methane that are trapped in the Earth's atmosphere, and which also causes warmer climate. Yeah. The signs of greenhouse gases one can see in the extreme weather nowadays, the rising sea levels and heat-related deaths, increased transmissions of infectious diseases such as Lyme, which is a rash that comes from tick bites. Another greenhouse gas, thousands of times more powerful than carbon dioxide in trapping heat, is the hydrofluorocarbon. Yeah? Hydrofluorocarbon is used in refrigerants, air conditioning, refrigerators. Yeah. So in 2016, there are more than 140 countries agreed to reduce the use of these chemicals and use greener alternatives over time. Pollen and mold. Now these are produced by trees, weed and grass, yeah, and carried in the air in large quantities, more and more so because of the damp weather and the changing climates. And molds also grow in water-damaged homes, schools, and buildings. Yeah? And molds can precipitate asthma attacks, allergies, and some produce harmful toxins. So that's a list of the hazardous air pollutants. How do we help to reduce air pollution? This is a picture of cyclists, and it gives us a message of making good choices about transportation, especially those that don't burn fuel. Yeah, let's walk more, cycle more, and if we can, drive less. That is the message that can help us to reduce the usage of cars. Yeah, how to help reduce air pollution further, we can also buy food locally. Yeah, this cuts down the need to transport food across the country. And the other thing is one can think of getting leaders who are supportive of clean air and water to step up and play their roles. That means we elect leaders who are in favor of a cleaner environment. So when we see this kind of news in the papers or social media about pollution levels being high, better stay indoors, as we now know how dangerous the pollutants in the air are to our long-term health. Yeah. How to protect your health when you do exercise outside? Try to avoid heavily trafficked roads and understand that the ultraviolet radiation doesn't just damage your skin, it causes worse. So whenever one can walk, ride, or bike, um, and if one were to buy cars, yeah, choose electric car where possible, or cars that have better mileage. Plus, if you haven't done this, investigate your power provider, our Tenaga, and request to have solar energy supply. Yeah. With that, we have gained some ideas about air pollution and the dangers to our health. Let us turn to this second part on water pollution. Now we can see this kind of outlets mostly taking effluents from factories that produce all kinds of chemical stuff, and the waste are churned out, dumped into our waterways. Here is another article from the NRDC site that is very informative by Ms. Melissa Danchak. This at the link provided below here. Take a look at it if you want the details later. Our rivers, reservoirs, lakes, and seas, yeah, they are being polluted by chemicals, waste, and plastics, plus other pollutants as well. Now, we can see toxic substances from farms, towns, and factories, mainly in farms normally used for agricultural purpose, pesticides, herbicides to help the plants, but at the same time, they are detrimental to our environment. We many taking this plant as food, yeah, ingesting the the harmful toxic substance that come along that are sprayed onto the plants, not only through our water sources, but also those on the plant itself. So we have got to be aware that these are the things happening that damage our environment and our water sources. And many of us who live in towns, if you happen to service your cars every now and then, you'll find that the mechanics will be pouring this the black oil away that has been used. They will normally pour it into a big drum, and sometimes one wonders, where do these drums, after they are full, where do they go? Yeah. And do we ever investigate whether the this black oil drums that are used, yeah, do they go to the proper places, and how is it like regulated and things like that? So it is worthwhile for environmentally concerned people to make audits regularly, just to make sure that the proper things are happening in our society. There are people hungry to make more money always, everywhere, every corner of our earth. So we have got to be vigilant that the proper thing is going on within our society. In this the picture of the effluent being dumped into our waterways. Now, this is something which, as Malaysians, as a Selangorian, I would say we have had quite a number of experiences where the water stoppages happened in our state. Yeah. So why? Because of illegal dumping of effluent. So we have first-hand experience the last couple of months, and so let's together do something to help reduce water pollution on our part. Yeah. But what is water pollution? Water pollution occurs when harmful substances, often chemicals or microorganisms, contaminate what I call orals. Now I've shortened it to orals: ocean, river, aquifer, lake, and stream. Yeah. So what is what is this term aquifer? Aquifer is basically a, a form of this rock, yeah, that is permeable, that is permeable where water, a body of permeable rock, yeah, which contain and transmit groundwater. So this is where rain, after the rain, the water goes and hides in the ground, and people who know about this body of water, they know where to get the water, or for some, there are there are ways for them to just like people prospecting for gold. There are ways for people to seek out this groundwater. And in the olden days, I don't know whether people nowadays still have this still carry on with this technology to be able to spot where wells can be dug. And what are the causes of water pollution? Here, water is uniquely vulnerable to pollution because it is a universal solvent. It's also why water is easily polluted, yeah, because it is a universal solvent. There are a couple of categories of water pollution, and here I would expand further on this. Number one, what is groundwater? Yeah, groundwater is, as we said just now, the water that seeps into the ground. And these are potentially contaminated by the heavy use of pesticides, fertilizers, or even waste leaching from landfills and septic tanks. These can be, I mean, as they flow out to streams or lakes, they can contaminate those streams and lakes, or even the ocean. The streams and lakes and oceans are our major surface water sources. Yeah. What is point source here? Point source is contamination from a single source. These are normally effluents discharged legally or illegally by industries, wastewater treatment facilities, chemical or oil spills, dumping, or even leaking septic tanks. So the EPA regulates this effluents by setting limits to what can be discharged into a body of water. What are non-point source? Non-point source are from agricultural or stormwater runoffs, or even debris blown into waterways. Yeah, this type of pollution, which is difficult to regulate, is said to be the leading cause of water pollution in the US. Transboundary is basically water pollution from spillages of contaminated water from one country into the waters of another. Agricultural, this basically is the sector which is the biggest contributor to contamination of rivers and streams in the US. Because every time it rains, this fertilizers, pesticides, the animal waste, they are washed of this, their nutrients and pathogens. These are the bacteria and viruses. All these contaminants get into the waterways each time it rains. Now, sewage and wastewater, these are where residential places and even business places where there are sewage and wastewater uh, tanks being drained away. These are also major pollutants. Oil pollution. Now, one would think tanker spills will cause most of our sea pollution. To be informed that half of the estimated 1 million tons of oil that get into marine environments each year come from land-based sources, that is, factories, farms, and cities. What about radioactive substances? These are radioactive waste that, I mean, any pollution that emits radiation beyond what's naturally released by the environment. For instance, uranium mining, nuclear power plants, the production and testing of military weapons, or universities and hospital researchers, where they make use of radioactive substances. And disposal of such waste is a major challenge, as this waste stay in the environment for thousands of years. It will cost the Washington more than 100 billion until 2060 to clean up 56 million gallons of radioactive waste from the decommissioned Hanford nuclear weapons production site. Now that is just to illustrate a point, how difficult it is to get rid of such waste. Yeah? What are the effects of water pollution on human health? Now, look at the figure there. It caused 1.8 million deaths in 2015, and every year it sickens about 1 billion people. And the victims, sad to say, many are the low-income communities which are closest to the most polluting industries. Bacteria and viruses from human and animal waste are also, if they're not properly cared for or they leak out, these diseases get spread, including cholera. These are diseases which one can find in the poverty-ridden areas of the world. Yeah, and here is proof that even wealthy nations, sometimes accidents or illegal releases happen. So can cause these harmful pathogens to escape into our waterways. So another form is this. Legionnaire's disease is a kind of pneumonia that found to be from cooling towers, pipe water, which one might think is harmless. So just be on the watch out for this kind of water pollution. Our environment, in order to thrive, healthy ecosystems rely on a network of all types of living beings, and harm to one will cause a chain effect on the others. Like for instance, there's algal bloom that you know reduces oxygen in water. So those when they bloom too much, right, on the surface of water, oxygen levels reduce, causing dearth of oxygen and creating what we call dead zones. Yeah. Not only that, this harmful algal blooms also secrete deadly toxins that can kill wildlife. So here is a picture of how the big fish is gobbling up the smaller, no, the predator, the apex predator, gobbling up the smaller life until it gets to the smallest in the food chain. And because the smallest got toxins in their bodies, the larger ones end up with things like mercury. This is how the big fish accumulate mercury in them. So what are the effects on the environment? Yeah, marine debris, you know, they strangle, suffocate, and starve animals. Now, these are things like plastic bags and soda cans that form floating garbage patches in our oceans. Discarded fishing gear and other types of debris. Now, this can harm more than 200 different species of this marine life. Yeah? On the environment, the ocean acidification causes the even shellfish. One would think it's hard to harm shellfish, yeah? But here it says because of this ocean acidification, it's harder for shellfish and other species to build shells, and this may impact the nervous systems of other life forms like sharks, clownfish, and other marine life. So what can we do to help prevent water pollution? There are some simple ways. Reduce plastic consumption. We hear about reduce, reuse, recycle plastic a lot from environmental concerned people. So be properly dispose oils that are used oils, non-biodegradable items. Don't just pour them into the drain. Yeah? Properly dispose them to the right dump sites or the recyclers. And make sure our vehicles don't leak oil, antifreeze, or coolant. These are the two links that Malaysians, if you want to check out where your used cooking oils can be recycled, can be sent to, these are the two links that will help. Please check them out. Take the time to protect our environment. Check out where these are going and help out wherever possible. Now, if you have a yard, avoid applying pesticides and herbicides. If you have pet, be sure to pick up its poop. Use your voice to support the clean water for our environment movement. Yeah, wherever we are, which country we are at, we can make our elected officials responsible answerable to this water pollution issue. Make sure they are not in cahoots with the big money, and at the same time we'll have to learn how we can get involved in the policy making process. Yeah. So with thanks to the NRDC articles from Ms. Gillian McKenzie and Melissa Danchak, I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me in this talk today on air and water pollution. Thank you.